The show debut, Common Ground radio show. Big Al and Zapper back in the saddle again on this Monday, January 29th, 2024. Thank you so much for tuning in to our new radio show. Stick around and stay tuned for what we have in store today. Lots to talk about. Coming up now on the Common Ground radio show. Welcome, everyone, to our show debut. I'm the Zapper, along with Big Al Flowers, with me here in the virtual studio. And we appreciate you stopping in. It's our, first time, not together, but first time with this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in this old school radio style broadcasts. Lots of talk, but we also listen. That's the whole purpose of Common Ground, which I'm going to let Al talk a little bit more because it really is his idea. But we're live streaming audio only today. You don't need to see our pretty faces. We've got the radio faces, as you know. But all of these right now today are going to be streaming live on the Jeff Zapp Show platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Rumble is our primary, live stream. So you want to make sure if you want to tune into that, you'll be able to watch us live on Rumble, and it'll be fantastic if you can throw in your comments there, the Rumble rants, Facebook, and so forth. I'm also trying to produce this virtually from my studio here in the heart of the Low Country, but if you would do us a favor, give us a like, subscribe, or share this content with your family and friends as we continue to grow this listening audience. So with that being said, one of the things that I would like to do is just bring my good buddy Big Al Flowers in here. Al, what's going on?
What's happening, Jeff? It's always a privilege to be here and be able to speak to the fine folks across the nation and the world through the Jeff Zapp Radio Network. It's awesome to be back in the saddle with you again on Common Ground Radio.
Yeah,
we're going to be really kicking off a great series. I think we're going to do weekly shows on Mondays, and we're looking for some participation from folks that are going to call in and add value to the whole conversation.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that as you came up with the term for, or the topic, Common Ground specifically, and what we feel, the mission and the purpose of this broadcast is not just to be an all talk, but to have the other side of the coin, if you will, to listen and find some common ground.
Well, you said it all right there, the other side of the coin. We've always welcomed people that have different opinions than ours. Unfortunately, it seems like some people don't really want to talk about their position in a mixed environment, which is, I think we suffer a great loss by doing that as Americans. I think we've been built on reaching out to each other for so long. Have we made mistakes along the way? Yes. Can we be better? Yes. But I think that we all have a common thread that runs through us. We're all Americans. We all care about each other in a certain way. And if you need a demonstration for that, folks, just talk about any type of natural disaster and our response to it. You don't see people putting labels on who gave the most, who worked the hardest. Everyone shows up and digs in and pulls together on the same rope. And I think the common ground is that we're all Americans. We're on shaky ground right now, in my opinion. But I think we can move forward if we move together as one, as opposed to listening to talking heads on the TV, corporate interests that are steering us down the road and telling us what we should think. Not only common ground, but common sense, folks. That's what we need to get back to. Jeff?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's, we as followers of Christ, I think we'll talk about this in the next few segments. But, one of the reasons that I started my show singularly was it is not easy, folks, to do your show on your own, to produce and write the scripts and to get everything live streaming. But the purpose of the Jeff Zapp Show was to encourage you, most of the listeners, in a way that leads to truth, freedom, and hope found only in Christ alone. In these dark, difficult times, as crazy as the world is, people need some hope. And Jesus never shilly-shallied. He spoke the truth, which is divisive. And we understand that some topics that we cover here on Common Ground Radio Show are going to be divisive. But at the end of the day, the purpose is to really look at, to love your neighbor as yourself, to look at other individuals, other human beings as unique individuals created in the image of God, and to listen because, let's face it, folks, if you look around today in the news cycle, I think we've all been bamboozled in one form or the next. I don't care if you're a Buddhist or a Christian or any other type of, quote, religion that you follow, but if there is truth, and I believe that there is absolute truth, then you have to get to the point and figure out and connect the dots, if you will, on your own sometimes, that there is something more than this life than just flesh and blood, and that there is a spiritual reality to this, a supernatural reality. And if there is a God, and there is, and he's in charge, and he's sovereign, and he's created you specifically for a purpose that maybe you don't appreciate, well, you've tuned into the right broadcast, because this is coming from a Christ-centered biblical point of view, and we understand that not everyone's going to agree with this, but that's where the common ground comes in. If we can have a rational, logical conversation, to not throw disparaging words at one another because we might disagree, and at the end of the day, we might agree to disagree, but we will always guarantee your right to speak the way that you feel, obviously without any malicious intent or trying to degrade us, and we'll show you the same respect as well.
Right. We're not going to label you on a Common Ground Radio Show. This is not a place to be labeled. You have an opinion. It's important. You have beliefs within yourself. Share them. Let's find a meeting place along the trail as we go through life. I mean, some of us are just beginning our careers. Some of us are in a retirement mode. So the gap in between is something that we need to start solidifying. We need to, brace it up. It's just like a bridge. We need to start talking to each other a little bit more. I'm not trying to convince you to be anything. The beauty of Christianity is that you have free will. Once you're informed of things, lessons in the Bible, I think that you have your opportunity is one of two things: to conform or to go your own way. And I think what Jeff is trying to say is that when you conform to the Word of God and you follow Christ and you surrender your ego and your pride and your interest in having millions of dollars and fancy cars and homes and airplanes, when you surrender that and turn to God and turn to Christ and turn to His living Word, life becomes much calmer, much more satisfying. You become a much gentler soul, more giving, kinder, which is my watchword. I love that word. And you absolutely are enveloped with the grace of God. So no labels here, folks.
Amen to that. All. That's it. I appreciate you saying that. The kindness, I always refer to that on my show. My good buddy Big Al always says, let's be kind to one another out there. And it's a good reminder that we should be. And I think the Common Ground Radio Show, as you said, like take a few warm-up pitches, we're just trying to figure out this technology. And I apologize, I was a little preoccupied trying to look at the live streams right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, and just make sure. It looks like, I know on Facebook, everything's coming through loud and clear, and it's actually popping up the closed captions for us. So thank you very much. I wanted to say that we do like to listen, and for that to happen, you have to call us here in the studio. And the comments are fine, and I think we'll try to figure out how to do this, comments live streaming, as we are able to do this, in the future. But right now, if you want to call in, you've got something on your mind, as we discuss the topics today, you can see the call-in number is right on the thumbnail that is being live streamed to you right now. 843-305-3075. That's 843-305-3075 studio line. And how this works is you get an automated attendant answering machine, and you say, hey, this is Jeff, and I'd love to talk about XYZ. And what it does is it places you in the queue, and up top here in my studio, I see the call-in studio lines, and it'll say phone number and caller ID if appropriate. And I'll get to you, or we will get to you. We will get to you as soon as we can in the segment, and it'll be a live show. we'll not only be broadcasting live, but I will repurpose this just like our other radio shows as a podcast. So you'll be able to download this, listen to us while you're on the go, and more details will be forthcoming as well. So give us a holler here. You got something on your mind, or you just want to give us kudos for Big Al and Zapper being back in the saddle together. 843-305-3075. Would love to take your call. Nothing off the table. Whatever you'd like to chat about is fine with us as we do this debut radio show, the Common Ground Radio Show, brought to you by Big Al and Zapper. So that's that. I think we're going to just go into the next segment here, an open discussion, but I've been talking enough as it is. Al, what's been going on with you? How are things going? I think you've been working on a few things that you might want to share with our listening audience as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. Yeah, I have, folks. I'm working on a project called Men's Silent Journey, MENSILENT, journey.com. You can go there. It's a forum for men to express themselves outside of society expectations of how they should act. I'm not crying the blues here, but I think men have been taking a beating for a long, long time as far as the expectation of them having to act stoic, never cry, don't show emotions, lead, regardless of what it does to you, no matter what it does. And I'm not saying be milquetoast. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is the things that the subtle pressures of life through society expectations on men about not being vulnerable, not being able to express themselves, whether it's a strong emotion. No one has a problem jumping out of their seat and screaming at the top of their lungs when they're at a football game as a guy. But when tragedy strikes and you have to be, quote, strong for everyone else around you, for some reason, who knows? I think that tampering down, that pressure cooker, that each time that happens to an individual, it increases the heat and increases the pressure. And it may be subtle and it may be long term, but eventually it starts manifesting itself in different types of behavior in men, whether it be addictive to drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it may be. Domestic violence, it certainly doesn't manifest itself in something good for the family or good for the individual or the people around this person. So the forum itself is built just for men. We have resources on there for mental health care. I think men should start talking about their own mental health, start embracing the fact that they can be vulnerable. And the best way to do that is to pen something out. Our forum is protected. We have several levels of vetting. You're not going to get trolls in there. We know the people that sign up for it. And like I said, we have resources available to you if you want to seek professional help, which I totally encourage people and men to do. It's absolutely necessary in today's society. It's long overdue. The train has not left the station. Let's start by sharing each other's feelings. I mean, if I say that, I don't know how to handle this, a tragedy came into my life and I had to show that I was strong because my son thinks I should be strong. And you write that down in that forum, and then 10 other men say, this is exactly what happened to me. Number one, you're not alone. That alone is worth the price of admission. The fact that you know that this is happening all around me to other men. So it's the quiet moments, guys, that you know and I know. The quiet moments in the darkness when you're blinking hard and really struggling with those emotions that are bubbling just below the surface. You wish you had a place that you could put those. And that's what Men's Silent Journey is all about. I'm not doing this to make billions of dollars or anything like that. there's a need, and I want to fulfill that need. That's as far as that goes. Thanks a lot for letting me do that.
No, it's my pleasure. You just answered the question I was going to follow up with is, sometimes I think today especially, what we've seen broadcasting the past 3+ years together is a realization that a lot of these, I'll call them grifters, these people that are out there trying to do something, and whether it's a podcast or something similar, selling merch to folks that, whether it's the Patriots that, sign up for this, and they're in it to make the money. You're not doing this because you want to make money or get rich or famous, right, and both of us, but because you're passionate about it and you're providing a platform. We all know as men, I know certainly myself, those that maybe have had a forum where you can be authentic and open, transparent with other men to share what's going on. If you haven't noticed, in our society, men have been attacked, relegated as a bunch of bumbling, idiots, gorillas in the media and the entertainment for many, many decades. And this isn't attacking any other movements. I'm just saying we've allowed that to a certain degree to happen. But when we're in a safe environment to where we can share the thoughts that we're told that we need to push down farther and farther into our, to our souls until, I always say it's like a volcano. That pressure is going to build to a point, and then one day it's going to explode. So I think it's great what you're doing. Men's Silent Journey. Where can they get more information on this? It's to your website, I believe, right?
Yeah, right to the website. It's mensilent journey.com. Just go there. Everything's there for you. You get a free trial. I think we have a 10-day free trial if you'd like to check it out. It's I think $5 a month if you want to go on and be deep in part of the forum. So it's not about, that money is going to, I'm glad you brought this up, because some people have said to me, well, what are you running this subscription service? And really the main deal is to vet people out so we don't have a lot of trolls and such. And there's all kinds of bots that can infect this area. So I'm hyper sensitive to all that.
And that's important from the security standpoint. At the end of the day, too, I think both you and I have always mentioned and been transparent about this, is there are costs associated with everything. Now, if you and me being independently wealthy and billions of dollars, no. The purpose is like the Jeff Zapp show, Talk One Radio that we did together, your Men's Silent Journey. Some of these subscriptions just help cover some of your baseline costs. I mean, it's not like we're getting rich to this. I know for my show, one of the things that I've done and invested over the past, coming up on 2 years in April, it's hard to believe. That's all out of pocket. And I've received, I've said, if you want to help out, you can, but there's no desire on my part to try to make money off this platform. I truly believe, and that's why I'm really excited, not only to be back in the studio with you, Al, but I think, as you had some friends and listeners to your station, when you were doing Brown Bag News last year, and then even folks for me when I took some time off, because folks, this beats you down when you're an easy target, and it doesn't matter whether you're left, right, or central, but you're an easy target. Al and I both feel that we've been called to do this, and so that's why we're creating these platforms, opportunities to bring people back to the public square. And I know I keep rambling on, so I'm going to shut up so we can go right into the main topics for today. But we just appreciate you as a listening on, and we appreciate you as individuals, as human beings. Al has Men's Silent Journey. Go check it out, and I'll close with that. Go to his website, mensilentjourney.com. Thank you so much, Al, for being passionate, loving, and caring for our fellow men, and providing a platform for them to be connected through a secure forum, and also point them into professional counseling if need be, because the Lord knows there's a lot of us out there that have wounded hearts that have been broken along the way, whether from our upbringing or those that are veterans that have been experienced trauma in combat and the like. And you're providing a platform for people to come and to rally and encourage and exhort one another. And I think that's fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. And just know this, folks, any additional money is going to be rolled right back into donations to support men's mental health to those that can't pay for it. So don't think that I'm going to be rolling around town in the, escalate or anything like that. That's not happening. God's blessed me enough right now. I am satisfied. He's given me what I needed. And one of the things he's given me is free time and directed me right to Jeff. And we have a great partnership together. So we hope to be bringing you great things through this Common Ground radio show. So support me if you like. Take a look at it. I encourage you to do that. Men, if you're out there and wondering, am I all alone in thinking this way? You'll find that you are not alone. You'll never walk alone. mensilentjourney.com. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, with that, let's go into our next segment here.
Answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
That's what we're trying to do, folks. Try to speak the truth as best as we can.
What is the truth? That is an elusive.
Well, Pilate said that to Jesus. If you've read the Bible, folks, it was kind of ironic that he was staring at the truth incarnate, and they asked, a rhetorical question, what is truth? But that's what we're going to try to do here, trying to sift through all the news today. I use the term crazy because it's gotten crazy. It's an upside-down world. We have a variety of things that we're going to throw out there today before we shut her down. But one of the things is, if you've just been paying attention, just let's take the last year, 2023. In summary, we just started. It's hard to believe we're almost at the end of January. But we look back, and most of us, I think, even those of us that have been tuned in, meaning really paying attention to what's transpired since like 2020 or so, with the start of the Charlie 19 and the pandemic and so forth. But up until the point of latter part of 2023, we've seen some really strange, crazy, quacky things going on. And we're coming into another presidential election this fall in November. And I just think, if you had dialed back in a time machine 5-10 years ago, you probably would have thought there's no way some of this stuff is happening. But it's happening before our very eyes. And my question to the listening audience today is, what have you learned? And most importantly, as Americans, what's the outlook for our country? I tend to be a little more pessimistic and bleak because I'm thinking there's only one that can get us through this, and it's only Jesus. Now, that's my belief system. You might have something different that you feel about it, and we would love to hear about you here in the studio. Again, the number is 843-305-3075, and it's open now. You can call us or drop your comments in Facebook, Rumble, or YouTube while we're talking about this. But I sent you kind of our talking points for today, and we've got the first one was this whole concept that I think you started talking to me before we went live, is the open borders. Here we're having a showdown between the federal government and the state of Texas as to whether or not Texas can sovereignly protect its own southern borders. Well, we have supposedly, and I don't know the numbers, I don't know if they'll ever tell us the numbers, but we've had millions of illegal immigrants pour over our border from the south. We just can't have a country with these people coming in with the taxpayers funding again all this, as we're $34 trillion in debt. Is this a push for something a showdown? What are your thoughts on this in terms of, do you think that they're trying to push us into, quote, civil unrest so the globalists can come in and take over? I really don't know, so I wanted your thoughts or our listeners' thoughts on this.
Well, the alarm bells are going off. Just from Texas, they're probably, I think the last number I saw was over 8,000 a day. 8,000 a day, folks. Now, this is not just poor Latino families with 3 kids and, the mother and they're all under 9 years old showing up, with their brown bag, paper sandwich, government issued sandwich. These are people from China, people from Ethiopia, Somalia, several of the Muslim countries. 1,800 of them this year alone have been identified on the terrorist list. So we are, and the Governor Abbott, rightfully so, has exercised the Constitution as far as protecting his state from invasion, and that's exactly what it is. You have to look back and just think about when Trump was president, we had the turnstiles that were pretty well controlled, and we had a trickle-in effect, which is lovely. Let's exercise the Ellis Island formula and have people come through the normal channels. When Biden became president, he lifted that, canceled that, and basically lifted the curtain and said, come on, come on. We cannot, our infrastructure, both healthcare, social services, et cetera, cannot handle the amount of people that are pouring across that border, let alone the criminal element. That's another animal in itself. Is that not right, Jeff?
No, I was going to add to that. In fact, you just hit it on the head. And we've got this whole other thing which goes into the topic that I started with, is kind of reflecting what we've learned. And again, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever you label yourself in terms of your political ideology, but at the end of the day, as Americans, and if we can agree that we love this nation and you want to have a nation, you can't allow drugs to pour in through the southern border, or any border for that matter. Of course, unless, I guess, if you're for drugs and you're the one that's maybe a cartel or making billions of dollars from it, or maybe a corrupt government. But there's child and sex trafficking that's been going on. I think a lot of people have started to wake up to this fact that with all these hundreds of thousands of children that supposedly go on, missing every year, what is going on here in our own country and abroad? And who's benefiting from all of this sick, evil behavior? To include, of course, the infiltration from these people, the bad guys, I call them. These bad guys that are coming in, and when they're being transported across the nation, I always say I'd love to see who has the contracts for the busing and or air transportation for these individuals that are coming in.
Right.
Because, suppose you just, again, you don't ever seem to get the full story. You get little bits and pieces, and you try to, little crumbs that are dropped. You're trying to put everything together. I don't know who's benefiting, but I guarantee you, if I say follow the money, someone is getting a lot of money for transporting these illegals. And they're going to all different cities, not just the, quote, sanctuary cities. So I'm with you. Can we stop the turnstile? Can we go back to at least some common ground, if you will, for securing our borders? And that includes, north, south, east, west. I'm just using the southern example right now, in Texas especially. That's what's been transpiring in the news.
Right.
But who,
Well, the Canadians are about ready to come on the northern border too. I mean, they've had to operate under the tyranny of the Trudeau and the Liberal Party in Canada for going on almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
And here's a prime minister that has frozen bank accounts, thrown people in jail. Not aside from the frozen bank accounts. I mean, our government's doing the same thing with the J6 people that were not allowed the due process of law as outlined in our Bill of Rights. But, who's that to say, right?
Well, that's the thing that I really wanted to throw out today, is a lot of the things that we perceive or see that's being broadcast, whether it's the mainstream media news or you hear social media, can be such a cesspool and of disinformation. They've labeled us as, when we were broadcasting, remember the censorship that was mal, mis, and disinformation, and we weren't allowed to talk about certain topics. Otherwise, we were kicked off of ScrewTube and other platforms. And ultimately, what we have to recognize is there has been a lot of propaganda for many, many years. And that's why I said earlier about, you want answers, I want the truth, you can't handle the truth. Many people don't want to look at the truth, like I've pointed out with child and sex trafficking. It's been going on for a long time. Again, when you look at a globalist perspective, whether it's Justin Trudeau or any of the other elitist folks, people that think that they're superior, that they are the ones in charge of us commoners. And you can look at the World Economic Forum and all these secret societies, social, these groups that get together. It's not trying to be conspiracy theorists, but if you can't see it for what it is, you'll probably never pull your head out of the sand, because this has been going on for many, many years. And I think in the 20th century, especially, the way history, of course, who writes the history books, and unless you study it on your own and try to have maybe an eyewitness or somebody that was there, it doesn't always marry up. What's being told doesn't always marry up to the truth. And so I think what we have to ask ourselves is, all right, so we're here as a country, we're $34 trillion in debt. We've had this Federal Reserve that's, this banking cartel, these centralized banks that back in 1913, if you aren't familiar with it, go study the book by Griffin. It was The Creature from Jekyll Island, and that's a fantastic book to give you a little bit more insight into the Federal Reserve and its creation thereof, which really stripped us as a country, as a republic, that we're supposed to be a constitutional republic, because it gave basically the authority to print, Treasury, took the power from the Treasury and gave it to these very elitist cartel members of the banking industry, and they've been in control ever since. When you do that, you really lose any sense of control or democracy, even though say there are democracies and threatened, but that's not really true. And so when you look at it overall, you recognize that a lot of these elitists, for whatever reason, may be pushing us towards, I use the term Hegelian dialectic principle. There's a thesis, there's an antithesis, and there's a synthesis. There's always trying to bring together, as George H.W. Bush said, this new world order. And they're very serious about it, folks. Make no mistake about it. I think if you have learned anything in reviewing 2023 and even in early 2024, as an example of that person who's white-haired and has a hard time putting a couple sentences together, I think it's obvious now, more and more people recognize that things aren't the way that they're supposed to be. And certainly it's evident, I think, that we're a long way from any pull up. Looks like we're going going to burn a smoking hole into the ground. If you're familiar with aviation terms, and it just seems like we're in a flat spin. And I don't know if there's going to be a way for us to pull. I mean, certainly $34 trillion in debt. I know I'm going to give Al an opportunity to respond to this, but there is this elitist club. Call it what you will. Well, George Carlin said it's a big club, and you and I are in the club. And if I can find that clip for the next time, I'll play it for you. But he was right on the money. A lot of people, there's a lot of creative, expressive ability in these artists sometimes. And I don't care whether it's George Carlin, who may have been more, liberal, or Dave Chappelle. But sometimes when you listen, there's like little pieces of truth that you can glimmer. And George certainly hit it right on the head. That's a big club. If you think these people in Washington, especially if you've watched over the last 6 months, these people don't care about you and I. And it's supposed to be a constitutional republic for we the people, but it's certainly, we're a far away from what it should be. And I see a lot of people today looking at, Trump as our hopeful. Well, look at within the Republican Party, what a mess that is they keep coming after him. They got this rhino, what's her name, Nikki Haley, that's still in the race. She doesn't have a chance at all, but yet you still have a lot of people that are rhinos, these establishment guards types that are still trying to stop Trump at any and all costs. And I just don't have the answers to where we're going to go from here. I know who's in charge of all of it. God is. But I try to do my part, and I think that's what I'm trying to express to everyone here is when you start to learn, because everyone's at a different point of understanding in this journey, and I don't know it all. And I know that Al doesn't know it all, but sometimes when we communicate, you might be able to share with me or with the listening audience, and I might go, wow, I never thought of it that way. Maybe things aren't all aligned with the way I see it either, and I'm not suggesting that my opinion's 100% right on. I have some theories about stuff, and I'm not ashamed to share them because I think we've been kept in the dark for a long time. What are your thoughts, Al?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you, Jeff. The fact is there's a lot of people that think the Federal Reserve is part of the government. I've had a conversation with someone that says, well, the Federal Reserve, if Biden would just, they're part of the government. No, the Federal Reserve is an independent private structure that operates within the government, but is relatively independent, allegedly. We know it's not because if you take a look at where we're going, talk about control and where this whole show is headed, aside from the flood of human beings coming across the border. And I want to circle back to that to use a famous quote in just a moment. But the digital currency that's coming, that's going to be on us before we even know it, is another form of control. If you haven't understood that, you will very shortly. And it's being tested out in many places. There are several nationwide Walmarts that aren't accepting cash anymore. You go to a ball game, you go to a hockey game, you go to one of these arenas or stadiums, no cash, all card. Where do you think that's headed, folks? It's going to be connected to your social score. It's going to be connected to what you watch on. It's just like pretty soon the internet, you're going to be able to go to the internet to places only if they want you to. Why do you think they want all this information when you sign up for the internet right now? So pretty soon that funnel is going to be shut off, and it's going to be controlled by someone. You know, I don't want to sound like a complete, tinfoil hat guy, but, they're already listening to everything we say and marking down every website we go to, regardless of how many VPNs you get. If you think that's going to save you.
Yeah, well, somebody's making a lot of money off of VPNs. I thought, hey, this is a classic example. And this is, I was thinking maybe we're sounding too serious. Nobody wants to call in. We're pontificating. But that's a classic example is where you go, what are these companies? I'm sure the idea was really good, but they go, hey, we're going to create this thing called social media. We're going to have Facebook, DARPA creation of this. If you're not familiar with DARPA, folks, go look it up. Go Google it. DARPA. A lot of these special projects that came out of the Department of Defense and, hey, Facebook sounds good. Yeah, let's try social media. Think about where we've come. If you've had a smartphone since the middle of the 2008, I think, 2007, somewhere around there, even the development and the propagation of social media, I look at my own children. I'm like, man, they can't put it down. And they are so transformed or conformed, if you are conformed to this world because of they're trying to keep up with their peers on how they look, how they speak, what the discussions are open. I think that they are just riddled with all these different complexities that they really can't get out of the mire and the muck. In fact, I've talked to my kids about it and their friends, and they want to come on the show and talk about how it feels to be growing up in these difficult times where they're trying to separate truth from propaganda, from all the other stuff. And it's really easy to push out a narrative through, and it's sometimes, most of the times, I should say, propaganda or false narrative, but it's propagated because of the social media, which everyone is clicking on, and I think it's just so toxic. It's so hard. To me, it's a breath of fresh air when you have something like Common Ground Radio Show where we can discuss things openly and, again, maybe get to some element of the truth here as best as we know it or as best as we've been told. And I think you start to see that when you go, oh, maybe the government's not been telling us the truth. Well, yeah, hello. What's with all the talk, as an example, with, you said social credit scores. But there's always this little sliver. It's like, what was the elections? Oh, they're the most secure in the history of our country. That's like a red flag. Something's amiss there. Or when they start talking about what are they called now? Unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. There used to be UFOs, is what I call them. Yeah, right. And the little green Project people. These people are going to show up, and it's like, wait a second. Yeah, I know there's certain things that have been documented myself where unsightly. These objects, I'll just call them, flying that defy the laws of our physics, at least, and acceleration, fire pilots, airline pilots, sailors, people have witnessed this, and it's been well documented. But it's like, well, what is the truth going to cause me to have a massive heart attack when we find out, or is this being used as a ruse to create some other type of distraction that we've all succumbed to? And I say entertainment is the biggest one of those. Is let's go watch football or basketball, and it's enjoyable. But you said it earlier, boy, when you look at the fans in these stadiums and these venues, it's like, wow, these people are really fanatics. I mean, they're going absolutely crazy over what I call a football game. It's just a friendly competition. But these people have bought it all, hook, line, and sinker, and the companies, whether it's the National Football League or the NBA, they're making billions upon billions of dollars, and these players get paid handsomely to play a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the fellow's name I was thinking about in the UFC that just spoke his mind was Sean Strickland.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, he spoke his mind. He's got free speech. He says, "I'm exercising my free speech now." Of course, all the reporters and everyone in the UFC, not everyone, but some of the UFC commentators, I'll put it that way, went after him talking about how racist he was, ism and is, that type of thing. So this is why we're here. This is why Common Ground radio program exists, is we have strong feelings about things that are going on in this country to our detriment. And we are asking for partners to come alongside us, join us, share your opinion. It may not be exactly what Big Al and Zapper have, and we appreciate your opinion. But just to label and call us names and, think, oh, you're a racist, you're a Trumper, and all this. Listen, I'm not a big Trump fan. I got to tell you right now. So let's get that out of the way. I'm a common sense type of guy that wants to have this country back in some type of order. That's all. Instead of letting things run wild.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. I'm not anti, particular person, but when I look at common sense, like you said, this character that's up there now and the parading around to be the president, he's not all there, number one. Number two, I always am fearful if you place your hope in one leader, the person that's out there, the cheerleader rallying the troops, if you will. I'm always skeptical about that. Like I've said from the very beginning, I think the policies and the administrative policies of a particular president, if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but the power should be back to we the people. And we've not had this proper oversight for a long time, from the way that the legislative body is handled to our judicial branch, which we see more and more of this overrun federal two-tier justice system. And they talk about Trump. I mean, they just keep coming after him. So whether he's just, in this as to catch the flack, to throw us off, which it might be a ploy, or it's for real, and this is demonstrating how messed up our justice system is, all the way to the Supreme Court. My feeling is, again, it's not based on political ideology, but are these people upholding the oath of office for which they're supposed to be, for working for you and for me? And I just don't see it happening. And I think that the farther we get into this mess, the harder and harder it's going to be for us to, like I said, to pull up out of the flat spin before it's too late. And I don't want it to sound too pessimistic, but I'm trying to paint an accurate, realistic picture of what's been transpiring for so long. And many of it is because, you look back through history, JFK, the assassination then, all the way through current times with what's happened out in Maui. What's the real story there? What happened at 9/11? What truly happened? It's Charlie 19. I can go on and on. These are all, quote, conspiracy, theories. But the reality is something has happened there, and we're never getting to the truth. So that's true with UFOs. Or my recent one is, what's really in Antarctica? Go look up the Antarctica Treaty. I think it was 1947-48. I was actually looking. We're trying to go see the Northern Lights, my wife and I was looking at a Google map, Google Earth or whatever, and then it was showing Antarctica, how, in contrast to how large of a landmass. I'm like, is this an error? Or so then I started doing some research, knowing how I am. I'd love to hear your opinions about some of these topics that I just mentioned. It's like, I think maybe someone, I don't think they always tell us the truth and what they're up to. Why? Because I think at the end of the day, if these people that I'll say the globalists or the elitists want to stay in power, they tend to keep things away from us, because if they're the one that have the power and authority, they're going to keep it away. So this show, allows us to talk openly, and hopefully that the First Amendment, we're not shut down because we're just having conversations. And so I think it's imperative for everyone out there, whether you are, again, left of Whoopi or right of Genghis Khan, you can come on the show and air out your opinions, and we can listen to them, and maybe we'll find along the way some common ground to where we can work together.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is our first show, and I don't expect people to be lining up to call in, but please pass the word and know that every Monday at 1 o'clock, you'll be able to ring us up and, wear us out if you like. I mean, we're listening if you're talking. So, I mean, I think we're the only conservative platform that rolls out the red carpet for those that don't share our own opinions, and we welcome them. I mean, I'm not the smartest kid on the block, so, you could probably educate me as far as taking some of your info, some of my info, and then coming up with some type of compromise within my own mind about they have a serious point there. I got to give them that. I mean, change my mind like this. I don't care for this guy either, this Crowder dude, but I think that we're being bamboozled to the maximum here in this country. I mean, even with our own, as a Republican, a registered Republican, I am completely dismayed at what's going on. Chuck Schumer right now has sold a bill of goods to all these rhinos on the right and said, and they're getting ready to compromise our borders further by rolling it back and saying, yes, let's just say 5,000 a day is a good number. 5,000 a day, folks. It's over 1 million people a year. I mean, that's insane to me. And that's not a compromise. We have laws on the books about immigration. Let's just enforce those. How about that? We don't need anything new.
Well, that's the thing that I always try to express is how important it is to just follow the current laws, the rule of law, and whether that's through immigration or anything else that's happening in our country. Why can't we just follow the rule of law? But they seem to live on a different set of rules, and they have an open checkbook, and so they can, anytime that there's some sort of skirmish or potential war where the world police officer, we go rushing in, we get the neocons and the others that want to rush in. Oh, we get to take care of them, and let's write another check for $1 billion+ to whatever country. Fill in the blank. It doesn't matter. And folks, again, these contractors that are involved in the military-industrial complex and those that are benefiting. Look at Nancy Pelosi recently. Some article came out about, her insider trading and some of this stuff. These people that are in Congress, well, of course, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If you can't see that for what it is, it happens. But why are we, the taxpayers, burdened with, or funding all of these skirmishes, these campaigns, these never-ending wars, 20 years in Afghanistan, we pull out of there. Come on, it's a joke. We are like the armpit of the world right now. And I'm laughing because, it's like, what are we going to do? And so, at the end of the day, let's figure out how we can come together and start maybe learning from one another, because I'm not the smartest, guy around. And I know there are a lot of you that are out there listening that are much more intelligent and have a better understanding and knowledge of some of these deep topics. That's what a radio show is all about. I'm not like you said, to Crowder or Tucker or any of these people. But again, I'm always skeptical of these people. It's like, who's funding them?
Right.
These people they're like glorified entertainment people. At some point, and I won't mention the specialists that we all used to watch, at least most of us did, that were on the conservative right. I mean, it started with Bill O'Reilly, then on Fox News, and you'd watch all these people. It was like these talking heads, you would just almost take everything what they would say as gospel. And then you come to find out they're just full of it, and they're all about ratings. And it doesn't matter whether it's a CNN or a Fox or anybody. They're all, the mainstream media is all about making money. And if they have a slant, they're going to give it. So this radio show hopefully in the future, regardless of what we're discussing, we want to bring some of your expertise and knowledge to the forefront, air it out, and let's find some common ground. And we don't have all the answers, neither do you. But at the end of the day, I will say this, both Al and I agree that there's only one in charge. There's no sweat on his upper brow. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And we will talk about and encourage you to go check him out. Not like the commercial I saw last night. I wanted to end with this, if that's all right with you. Those commercials, I was watching the latter game past evening, and it was the 49ers playing the Detroit Lions. And I was kind of hoping that the Lions were going to make it in. They just screwed it up really bad in the second half. Anyway, the commercials that started, I think, maybe last year's Super Bowl or whatever, it's He Gets Us. Maybe you've seen that. And as a follower of Christ, my spidey senses went up. I was like, what? I guess I've never really paid attention to this. I was wondering who was funding it. Was this would people start talking? It's kind of neat, if someone's going to actually speak the truth about Jesus over the airwaves. In this case, in this media, it's television, because you don't hardly see it. You see more pharmaceutical commercials, right? And how you can save on insurance. But the gospel is the gospel. It hasn't changed. But this traditional marketing and media, so maybe we could talk about that the next time. And I wanted to know everybody's thoughts on it and get your thoughts out. But it kind of struck me because I know the video was pretty cool. But again, it's not this try to get you to go to church and a laundry list of things to do. You're saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. And he's the one in charge, folks. And there's no... there's no shilly-shallying when it comes to speaking the truth about our Lord God Almighty. He's the one in charge, and I think he's the only one that can ultimately clean up this mess that we're facing. But in the meantime, stand strong, be persistent. As my big, good buddy Al Flowers always says, let's be kind to one another out there. And then I'm going to give you the last word here, Al, and then I think we're going to sign off for the day because we're getting a little long-winded.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Great show. Folks, listen to this, share this with people that you care about. We're just a couple of guys that want to bring us back to where we all know we belong. Your belief system is going to be your belief system, whether we influence you or not. You have the free will to make your own decisions. But I want to ask you just to pray for those troops that are in harm's way and are continually be put in harm's way by the military-industrial complex that are being facilitated by politicians that have absolutely no interest other than making money. Money. We're getting our faces in every conflict in every part of the world. Think about this. $6 million missiles being shot at the Houthis that are, it's like these people, all they do is press a button to launch a missile. They have no idea what they're doing. They're being run by, evil. But why should we as a nation be funding Ukrainian corruption, defending people in the Middle East that really don't really care if we do or not, and wasting American lives? Pray for them. We'll see you next week, hopefully, Jeff.
Very good way to end this our debut radio show. Folks, we'll be back probably next week at the same time. We do appreciate you tuning in. Make sure that you check out, you can go to the jeffzappshow.com website. I'll have the live stream archive listed there for you. We don't have really an outro, so I'm going to play some music as we leave this 29 January 2024. I appreciate you all listening. Go to the jeffzappshow.com website where you can learn more, and you'll be able to download the podcast here in just a short little bit. But I thank you so much for coming along with us. Hopefully we will get better and better every time we broadcast, but we can't do it without our listening audience. So we're grateful. And as Big Al says, I'm going to end with that. Be safe, and let's be kind to one another out there. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Common Ground Radio.